Welcome to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
Good morning, Mateo. How are you?
Brother, fantastic as usual. Just, grinding, man. It's that time of year.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's that spring grind. It's that, getting ready for summer and, where, is it going to be, is shit going to be hitting hard? Is it going to be, plateauing? It's that preparation time, we're into Q2. It's exciting. Dude, what is exciting today is this is our 99th episode.
I love 99.
9 episodes, fuck. I can't believe it. So, 100, we have a great episode coming next week, celebratory episode. I'm really excited to drop on the 100, but let's hit today. We have an amazing guest. I'm really, really excited. I stumbled across this cat months ago. We actually chatted towards the end of 22 a little bit, doing some amazing stuff in a comparable vertical. It's complementary. It's really interesting. It's a merge of a couple different verticals that we are involved in. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce Yeves Perez of Workbnb. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And talk to us about, when we talk to guests, we talk about, how they stumbled into the space. And you and I have talked in the past a little bit. And I think, and if I remember correctly, like you stumbled into our industry via your mom, correct?
Yeah. I mean, people who are familiar with me, they've heard me tell this story like a million times, but I had no ambitions of getting into this at all.
No one does, man. Like you're not special. Like no one has any.
That's everyone's story.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's like, I didn't know anything about it. My mom had a career in the corporate world of mortgage for years. And then when the crash happened, it just kind of like shook up her whole career path. And at that time, she wasn't aware of what was going on with her body. And she ended up with double carpal tunnel.
Ooh.
And she had to go through like surgery and, all this like pain. And, she got like a, disability and, other payment. And she didn't want to just like sit on a couch and just watch TV for the rest of her life. So she got into this, business. And, what was so interesting to me about what she was saying to me about it was that she was in the Airbnb business. And when she said that, I was like, okay, Airbnb must be the greatest thing that was ever made, because it's almost like if I'm a marketing guy, and marketing people, we know this very well. When somebody makes name association to something that actually has a lot of competition, they did something really incredible. Right. So think of like the Kleenex example, when people ask, can you hand me a Kleenex? Well, actually, I'm handing you a face tissue. Right.
Oh yeah. It's what I call the Xerox effects, right?
Right.
Exactly. They came in from a marketing standpoint and took over.
Boom. Yeah. Boom. Right.
Yeah.
And we've seen it with Nike. We've seen it with a lot of brands.
Coke.
And I'm a branding guy. So when she brought me in, I was looking at things, from a totally different lens. And the way she brought me in was just so funny. I mean, she was in a region of the country that was experiencing corporate relocation.
And this is Reno, correct?
Right. Reno, Nevada. So it's very close to San Francisco. And if you remember in 2019, there were so many companies that were leaving the Bay Area because of home prices being too high. And once that market broke, there were 3 big relocation markets. It was Nevada, Texas, and Florida. And that's where the majority of companies were moving. So her as a small, rental operator, only a few units. I think she had 3 units at the time. She was housing some workers. She didn't know it, but they told their boss how great of a host she was. And the boss of this company that was relocating called her up and said, I would like to pay you to set up housing for us because we're not finding good corporate housing in Reno. So when she got the contract and she got, paid, she ends up calling me up. I'm in San Diego and she says, Yeves, I bought you a plane ticket. You're coming to Reno tomorrow. And I'm like, what the hell? And I just figured if I'm ever going to get invited to Thanksgiving ever again, I better get on this plane.
So where were you when she pulled you up?
I was in Southern California.
Okay. Is that where you're from originally? Because we definitely want to get that part in there.
Well, I was born and raised in Sacramento, and we lived in Sacramento for a long time. And my mom moved us up to Reno my senior year of high school. That's the worst time to move, going to a brand new school. And I didn't like it. I didn't like living in Reno. There was nothing like about it that I enjoyed because I'm a city guy.
Yeah.
And it's more of like an outdoorsy kind of like person's place.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be in Southern California when I got out of high school, and that's what I did. So I used to tell all of my friends, I am never going to leave San Diego. Never. I love it. I love it too much. Yeah. But then when your mama calls, it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to, help support her dreams? And, I come up in an era where, a lot of kids, wanted to be athletes so that they could buy their mom a house, right? Or they could, help their mom start a business. So, I just was never that athlete. I was more of a brainy kid. And that's where I was like, okay, well, I could use my skills to help grow her business. And that's what I did.
No, I'd love to hear that. That's dope.
So you went to Reno, you're helping your moms. You're doing this thing, but when did it click to you? All right, I'm helping my mom with this thing that is this,
right?
But it wasn't Workbnb. It was like this is a grander, a bigger vision, and it's looking at and what was it? What was the thing that made you go, oh fuck, like we really got something here, or I really got something here?
Yeah. So that's where like the marketing skill set comes in. The marketing skill set, teaches you to understand your clients and understand your customers and do market research. And one of the things that she asked me to do, she said, hey, I want to get more bookings like this. Can you help me figure that out? And so one of the things that you try to do is you try to look at as much previous data as possible to help understand that market. And Airbnb provides nothing. You have no idea why they're traveling, or if they're traveling for work, what kind of job they have. Like you just don't understand that at all. So what I did was I looked at her previous bookings for like 2 years. And one thing that I barely could extract was like a good phone number or a good email. And what I did was I called everybody, but I had a set of questions. And the way that they would answer the question, I was able to drop them in a different bucket. And what I started to recognize was my first hunch. There was like this unique pattern in trip length. And once I started to see the different buckets that I could create, I just put each person that I contacted into a bucket. And then what I did was I had subsections. Like I would ask them, what were you traveling for? Like, what kind of job are you in? What industry is this? And again, I would segment more buckets. And it was something that I learned listening to a TED Talk, actually. And this TED speaker, Malcolm Gladwell, he's the author of like Outlier and, other, phenomenal books. He talked about horizontal segmentation. And once I kind of figured out that there was like this wide kind of like range of traveler, one of the things that I hyper focused on was what kind of like materials were they reading, what kind of keywords were in those materials. And one of what I discovered was that there was this keyword that was called workforce housing. And workforce housing really does get confused in a couple of different ways. A lot of politicians like to call it affordable housing, but industry analysts like to call it housing for workforce, for people that are doing hard laborious jobs or dangerous jobs or jobs that, maintain our society, like policemen and, firefighters and stuff like that, right? But again, I'm looking at it at the lens of like, there's this traveling workforce. And after compiling that data, that's where the next hunch came in, was that I looked at my mom's data, and 65% of her previous bookings were workforce related. And I was like, wow, okay. So she's using this language though, that's called vacation rental on her website. And she's using a platform that's made for vacation rentals, Airbnb. And I said, well, Mom, if you want more of these bookings, we need to call these something else. And that's where I came up with this term workforce rental. And that's where I really feel like my greatest work has been thus far, is like a subsector, and wanting to pioneer that in a way that those workers would look for that term, understand that this subsector is for them. And once we made that little pivot, that's where the phone started ringing like crazy, because I was like, let's try it. Let's see if it's going to work.
It makes total sense, man. Because like I used to run on prior military, and I used to run heavy equipment. This is back in the day, right? And when I ran heavy equipment, when I got out of the military, I was opening and closing deep mines in Western PA. So I was running dozers and excavators and all this. And we travel to a different, to a different state or different, 2 or 3 hours away. And sometimes I stay in like a no-tell motel for like, 3 weeks, because it was affordable. Like normally, like I'd have a per diem and I'd be able to get some for like $100 a night or less, but that included some food. And so the cheapest way to do it was just get that no-tell motel, and then you have a little bit more money for beer. Right. But I totally, like, it was shit. It was a shit experience. Yeah. It was a shit experience. And then if I put myself in like a supervisor role, right, that who's in charge of me, and I wasn't a supervisor, I was just a, lowly worker at that point, but I put myself like, that would suck. Man, I've been grinding for 30 years for, Acme Construction Company, whatever. And you're still putting me up at the same place, at the same standards as you're putting up, lowly entry level construction worker. But yet you expect me to go ahead and run a whole job site, but you're treating me like shit. That's hard, man. Like
and that's like that's the product that you're talking about, right? Where you stay in relationship to Airbnb, because people ask me this all the time. I have investors that ask me this all the time. Well, whatever happened to Airbnb for work? And I said, well, that product sucked. It just sucked because, they took something that they weren't good at and that they didn't really put a lot of work into. And what they did was they just kind of like, made the same user journey that they did for the vacation rental side. And it's a completely different side. And going back to like that supervisory role, construction workers, for example, they're just like doing these huge projects. And what they hated about the experience and most the experience of booking platforms is that it's the same user journey. It's like you have to go onto a search bar and you have to put in like this amount of time that you want it for the product. And we all know that they charge like a very high percentage. no matter how long they stay. So if they're looking to book for 9 months, they're paying 14% for a 9-month stay. That's crazy. So they hate that experience. And then what makes it even more challenging is if you're trying to book for a large crew of guys, 10 guys, 20 guys, 30 guys, you have to do one search at a time, one booking at a time, 30 times. And it's crazy, So those were all the little hunches that were starting to come up once I started to understand workforce. I started to really ask more scientific questions to build a product. And but the one that just blew my socks off though, I mean, just smacked me in the face was a large industrial general contractor named Ames Construction. And when we started to understand the numbers that they move and the durations that they move, that just blew open the idea that it's this isn't just a Reno thing. This is an everywhere thing. And that changed my life forever, bro.
But how do you not get overwhelmed, right? Because there's such differences in every sector, right? And I'm sitting up here, I'm thinking construction, I'm thinking oil and gas, I'm thinking all of each one of them have their own unique traveling schedule needs, timeline, right? Like the stay, if you got teams that are moving pipes, logistics is a whole nother portion, right? Like travel, have to take things from A to B on these huge trucks from, that take weeks at a time. But also here in Atlanta, you got entire production companies that are here, staying, from not just the talent, it's everything behind it, right? These are all workforce issues, but they all intersect. And I think even here in Atlanta, they do stay in short-term rentals, right? More than they do hotels, especially the production crews, right? So I think it's a little bit different for the actors depending on how long they're there, right? But that's a deep cliff, man. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And here's the thing. I knew this was going to change my life. Getting into this, I said to myself, I'm going to start a tech company and I'm going to figure this out. And, we started the company April 2021. So, we're coming up on 2 years in a few, days. And that's how much time we've dedicated to really understanding the differences because, take just the field of construction. Okay. You have large industrial general contractors that are, considered large cap companies. Then you have, general contractors that still do very large projects, but those would be considered mid cap companies. And then you have smaller, home builder type companies. You have subcontractors. And then you also have what I call disaster relief or restoration type contractors. You know what I mean? And you have to understand all the patterns of the travel. But
not only that,
that's what I thought was interesting from a technology perspective. From a technology perspective, you don't understand anything if you give them a search bar. So there's this very famous tech investor. His name is Peter Thiel. And I read his book. It's called 0 to 1. And for those of you that don't know who Peter Thiel is, Peter is a very famous Silicon Valley VC. He invested in Facebook. So if you ever saw the Facebook movie, he was the investor that came in at the end and wrote a check. And in his book, 0 to 1, he talks about the contrarian truth that the next generation of innovation is nothing like its predecessors, nothing like it. And I said to myself, okay, for us to really approach this thing, we have to basically blow up what we know travel products to be. And that started with us killing the search bar. We literally said no search bar. That's where the problem starts. we're going to invent something else. And what we invented was a pretty much like a product that collects the project data. And we understand deeply the project that they're trying to accomplish. So we give them the ability to start there and basically upload their project data, upload their project schedules, upload, as much information as possible. And basically we would be able to compute not only the size of footprint of housing that they would, need, but we would also give the marketplace the ability to set up units if they weren't available. And there's no product that's ever done that before.
And you answered my question before I even had a chance to ask, which is great. Like, so my question was, okay, we have short-term rentals, we got vacation rentals, we have corporate housing. We know we have some amazing colleagues and friends that absolutely friggin' crush in corporate housing, right? But they do it differently. Like corporate housing world is like you're reaching out to a company and you're saying, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so for this many people. Can you go ahead and house this? And so my question was like, they're already kind of doing this. How are you differentiating? Well, it's a huge differentiator right here. You're coming in, you're putting in project data, no search bar, and then you're calculating and spitting up results based on, future. Based on what is going to happen in the future. And I can see how this is going to work. I'm excited for possibilities. How did you go ahead? I see you're a part of TechStars 22, and I want to kind of talk about that. I want to talk about fundraising. I want to talk about, as a Black entrepreneur, what did you what were you up against with funding? Because I know
let's talk about raising money. No, seriously, because it is, John, I want to get into this.
Yeah, I know. That's what.
I'm here for it.
Let's talk about it, because I know your path was not a smooth path to get funding.
No.
Well, and even before we get into that part, let's talk about at the time in which he's created a company and raising money, right? Like where there's a lot of lip service, there's a lot of, we want to support diverse founders and founders of color and all this,
that's all lip service. A lot of that is
around, a lot of, hey, I'm here to help. Hey, we want to see, we want to see this happen.
Yeah.
It's 2023 and we got a founder on the line, but we have people out here that are raising money and know what it's like out here. And, to be doing this right now, I'm all for it.
I'm all for it, guys. So let me tell you my experience. Okay. So my experience was a kick in the fucking stomach. It was a kick in the stomach. It was like, hey, we want diverse tech founders, because Reno wanted to come up as a tech ecosystem. It was experiencing companies coming from Silicon Valley, and the city itself was kind of under this fairy tale, we could become the next ... right? And there's a lot of cities
too, right?
A lot of cities around the country. Yeah, a lot of cities around the country are trying to do that because they want the job economy. You know what I mean? The great tech jobs that pay very well, and they boost the economy, diversify the economy, all that type of stuff. So, but what was so interesting, and I joke about this all the time with my friends, is that if I was a white dude, I would have been able to write this business on a paper napkin and get a check. Instantly. If I was a single white man. Now let me add to that. If I was a white dude that went to Stanford, wait a minute.
I mean, let's just be clear.
Let me add another pedigree. Let me just add one more. If I was a white dude that went to Stanford, but I was ex-Uber or ex-Google, this thing would be all over the world. It would be crazy. So for me,
Stanford network is mean.
Right.
That Stanford network.
Right. But I got to tell you, when you have no tech pedigree and you have no 10x founder, 10x founder, 14 founder, 6 successful exits, all that type of stuff. Yo, tech is mean as fuck. Like, they're not about innovation. They're about, supporting a existing network and, following a blueprint of founders and betting on those founders. And when you look at the numbers of entrepreneurs that are getting funded, Black founders are at the absolute bottom because we don't have that pedigree, and
ask about their friends and family network. Start at the beginning, right?
Start there. Right. If you have the ability to raise $50,000 to $100,000 from your family, investors are looking at that and saying, okay, you know what? They have a network. They have a support. Cool. Having great credit is also another check plus, so if you have like these things that are up against you, like myself, but even going on beyond me, looking at like Black and Latino ex women, that's a double minority. It's like, it's crushing these numbers. And when you go into this, you start to see a pattern. And the biggest pattern for me out of Reno, how I knew I was overlooked, was that nobody was willing to help me build this company. Yeah. Everybody said, oh, this is a cool idea, and good luck with that. And from the time that I started the company to the time I decided to leave Reno, I only had 2 introductions made for me. And those introductions were, meant to kind of like help me build the business, right? Hey, I have this, this network that I want to make an introduction for you to help you build your business. Only 2 introductions. So what most tech entrepreneurs do is we start to look for accelerator programs that can, in the name, accelerate us, right? And I applied for a Nevada-based accelerator program. And what I noticed about them early, and this was a big risk, was that they were like printing the same founder. It was like white male founders coming out of this accelerator program. And I was like, well, I can't judge how many, Black or brown or Asian or female entrepreneurs that have gone through this program because I'm just learning about it. But I can see that nobody's coming out of the program. So I'm going to take a risk. Let me see if I could be the first one to be, printed out of this thing. And I went, and it was 8 weeks of Zoom calls and pitch practice and all kinds of stuff. And, what's crazy is that you have to have traction. You have to have customers and all this type of stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool because I have that. And I already started to make some early revenue before we even built the product. So I was like, okay, this is cool. But when they turned me down, I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, they chose a water bottle company over me. Like, they chose like how many water bottles are there? I know. Like, it's crazy. And what's so interesting is that you can look at like the top accelerator in the world, YC. Everybody's heard of Y Combinator? Yeah. Airbnb went through Y Combinator. Yeah. Just even in their most recent cohort, more than half of the companies accepted did not have revenue models, nor did they have any clients. Mm-hmm. It's just they came in with an idea, and I was like, see, that's that white privilege shit that I could come in on a paper napkin and I can get YC to drop me a check. It's crazy how easy, this is for them. And for me, I got turned down by a nothing accelerator. So, but
I mean, what do you think it is? Let's pause on this for a second. I'm thinking, and Teo and I have talked about this a lot, right? But what it is, and it's wrong, but what it is is that you don't look and act
Nope.
and project and do the same things that the guys, and I'll use guys with air quotes, if you're looking at me, that have the money, like you don't fit their mold.
Right.
So therefore they'll say to your face, it's something else. But in truth, they're uncomfortable around you.
Right. They're not comfortable. And
if they
you
can't,
can't have,
like, but we have to
yeah.
balance. We don't come from because we don't come from a culture of wealth in their eyes. Not saying that there's not wealth there. I'm saying in their eyes, we don't come from a bankable culture, right? Like that's
I don't think it's always just necessary that. Let me clarify a few things that a lot of people don't understand about tech. There's some different camps in tech. There are some people that don't have like, really great pedigrees, like they don't come from like wealthy families, but they're hackers, they're like shrewd tech geniuses that can hack into like a government, system, right? So there are some like really like engineering type geniuses out there, like, look at Zuckerberg, right? Like he was like a nobody that just came in and he had that hacker culture in him that, really kind of like, spun out some, like an anomaly, right?
I mean,
pause on that.
Say the same thing for Jobs and Gates, right?
Yeah, but
right.
But if he was,
they were out of the garage, right? Like not
right.
But if the
want their degrees and things like that, they didn't even finish.
If he was black, though, if Zuckerberg was black, would he
be unknown and unnamed, and whoever he sold that platform to would have gotten the success. Like that's
right. And I do feel that the experience though is a little bit different for Black hackers. Because you can still be like well received, especially like even in Indian culture, right? You look at a lot of engineers, they're Indian, right? If you have that engineering experience, I believe you can still elevate. You may not get to like, the biggest level, the biggest stage, but I do know for a fact, and I've heard this from a white founder, tech founder. We were on a Twitter chat talking about this, or a Twitter space. And he said, I made sure that I hired the geekiest looking, Indian and people on my team so that I could get a check. They just didn't look into their backgrounds. They didn't care. They were just interested that they were from India.
Boxes.
Yeah.
Right. And
it's like lick and stick kind of shit.
Right. Those boxes are preset. So when you're like someone like me that, proved something hard to do, which is called product market fit, that this thing that you're building fits the market, if you don't check all those boxes, they're just like, well, cool idea, bro. Let me know when it's bigger. Let me know when it's that. So what they'll let you do is they'll let you starve. They'll let you take something that's real and you are at risk of starving. And so what we have to do is something called bootstrapping and we got to figure it out. And it was that experience that, really opened up my eyes of like how hard it is to be a underrepresented founder, because you just don't have time to make excuses now. You have no time to say, okay, well, they're not funding me. Let me figure out how I can get funded, right? And one of the things that I figured out that I tapped into was that my clients were willing to write me a check. So let me talk about that from two spaces. So my very first client was Ames Construction out of Reno. We housed their workers and we did a booking for 2.5 years for them. And that taught us a lot about like the size and duration of bookings. And I said to myself, okay, let me learn how to raise money from the marketplace. And Techstars taught me that. When I went to Techstars, I didn't know anything about raising capital. All I knew was that nobody wanted to write a check.
Right.
And what they did was they flipped my knowledge base. They gave me this huge knowledge transfer of angel investing and impact investing. And these two investment strategies were just perfect for me. So angel investing is like the small check writer, the people that just believe in the founder, not the business. They believe in the founder. And once I found those type of investors, all I had to really do was tell a better story. So here's my story, helping my mom, figuring out this market. Here's this road, this pathway to a product. Here's what the product innovation is. Here's our go-to market strategy. Here are our projections. And I'm the founder to get it done. And once I was able to tell that story in an impactful way, angel investors started to cut checks. And I went to Ames Construction, my contact at Ames Construction, and I asked him to invest, and he cut a check. And I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, this is different. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not having, these disappointing conversations with investors anymore. Now, investors are buying into me. And that fills my heart like every single day. And then also, there's the real estate side, right? And I did the same thing with them. I would have these pitches and these conversations with them, and I would tell them, this is a perfect opportunity for you to get paid twice, where you can earn from bookings and then you earn from our valuation going up. How does that sound? And I started to collect checks. And that really just like changed the trajectory for me, because now I'm not begging. I'm not putting myself in a position where I have to do code switching. I don't know if y'all, but code switching, like I can wear my chain, I can wear my glasses, I can wear my Jordans, I can be authentically me, and I don't have to change up for nothing, nobody. I get to just be myself. And that's the ride that I'm enjoying right now, is that type of investment. I'm really enjoying. Now, my next one is impact investing. Impact investing is an investment strategy that specifically focuses on underrepresented founders as its primary investment objective. And they're looking for the best businesses from this group. Yep. And one of the things that they're looking for is great founders and a great business. So they analyze both really well. And what they do is they have one big objective, is this underrepresented founder making society better? Okay. So let me just differentiate that. You can't be an underrepresented founder that's just selling a very expensive product to just, rich white people. Okay. That doesn't qualify as impact investing. It's got to like help underrepresented users. And what I was making the argument to an impact investor was that a lot of the majority of these workers are Black and brown, Asian, Indian, a lot of them. And here are the numbers. And once they said, okay, well, you're improving their lives by getting them out of motels and hotels for months and getting them into rentals, yes, you are making an impact on society. And that's where, impact funds are taking a hard look at Workbnb. And, those type of funds write $2 to $5 million checks.
Right.
So the future is bright for us. And I'm looking to be the next Black Steve Jobs. I want to take this thing IPO, and I want to kick ass and take names.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So let's talk about where you are today. and
Yeah.
and how potentially our audience, that is listening, can get involved, or well, first of all, is this public? Like, can we go now? Like, if I'm a construction company, can I go to Workbnb and utilize your proprietary search functionality, which isn't a search bar, and
Yeah.
books shit?
Yeah. So, okay. So the answer is not yet. Okay. So in technology, there's this concept called an alpha test. Okay. And alpha testing.
We're all in tech here, so we
Yeah.
got your alpha, and then
I was just meaning for like the audience. Alpha, alpha testing is just this way of proving your product is algorithmically viable. Okay. That it can follow a certain process and pattern every single time. Right. Now, there are different like branch out points where you can go this way or that way and do things, in a different manner, such as I was explaining earlier, that we give the client the ability to put out what we call like a bid search. It's like, hey, I need housing in this area and I can't find it. Here's a bid. Will anybody respond to my bid and set up this housing for me? Right. Like that's a different branch out pattern that most booking platforms don't achieve. So as we roll this out, what we're doing is we're doing early testing. And we have a very select group of companies, and these are pretty large companies that we're working with to prove this out, because we do know that planned construction is different than emergency response. So if you guys remember, like the incident in Florida where that condo building collapsed, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't know is that the frontline workers that were sent in to rescue people, they had no place to stay. All of the vacation rentals were booked. All of the hotels and motels were booked. It was the height of vacation season. And those workers had to sleep on the streets in tents for several nights. Like, I think it was like eight nights.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, we're looking at these travel patterns and we're saying, how can we solve this? How can we do this? And that testing gives us the ability to get it right, so that this summer, when we put the app up on the App Store and we get hit with demand, we know how this is going to work as much as possible. Because what's true about the B2B space is it's a little bit different in B2C, but in the B2B space that we're in, it's not a forgiving space. Once they have a bad experience from a Black entrepreneur, they're not going to give me those.
So yeah, no, and that makes sense. So you're shooting for
Yeah.
your MVP in the app to come out then in summer. Then is that kind of where?
Yeah. And what we're shooting for is what we call the Workbnb wow experience. That it's the best travel experience that this particular underserved niche has ever seen. That they're going to have, not only the benefit of more time, because we were able to get the results fast and we were able to do something incredible. But we're also just testing one big feature out, which is called like bulk booking. So again, going back to how we collect that data, and let's say, you have a very large crew going out for the project. Let's say it's 30 people, right? We have this drag and drop feature that we're testing out every day, different scenarios where we drop like workers into apartments and then we drop them into single family homes. So it's like this drag and drop tool. And you can drag and drop the worker into like a 4-bedroom house, and you can choose which bedroom they're going to be in. And you can drop all these properties into a shopping cart and purchase them all at one time. That's like incredible,
I love
and
it.
again, testing that is really challenging because you're basically lumping properties into one big bulk purchase.
Mhm.
And then the payouts have to be clean, right?
Yeah, your
So,
accounting is as a nightmare.
right. So,
It's a nightmare.
so
It's not done
testing
correctly.
this out is just this methodical thing that we're chasing, because if we come out with the best experience possible, it's going to be hard. They call it a moat in technology. You're making it hard for the big competitors to want to even chase you, because it's like, yo, they're doing it so well. We should probably just buy them out.
Right.
And I'm going to tell them no, because I want to take an IPO. So that's like the fun part about where we are right now, is that, we've been doing a lot of test bookings. But I will tell you one thing that is just like, again, what's going to put me on the map as a blank entrepreneur is that I also went outside of my alpha test and I chose specific deals to go after. And one of them here in Vegas, that's why I'm in Vegas, is Formula One. Formula One made this huge announcement that they're relocating to corporate headquarters to Vegas, and they're committing to a 10-year race down the strip.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, oh my God, this is a huge opportunity for me to chase two verticals, corporate relocation and workforce. And I said, okay. And it's a global brand. So I said to myself, I'm going to go after this one deal, and I'm going to chase after those bookings. And that's a current negotiation that I'm on. I'm working with the contractor right now and Formula One to get that deal. It's going to generate me 2.2 million in revenue, as that's our early estimate. So I said to myself, okay, I get to put big numbers up on the board, a big logo up on the board, big brand logo. It would be a 10-year commitment. And I'm doing it all at a pre-seed stage. And for anybody who passed up on Workbnb, I'm going to make them regret it. And that's my attitude when I come to
Do you
these things.
think that real quick, but I love this attitude, but do you think that by focusing on, hey, this is our product, this is what we do, but also going after this large corporate logo brand, looking at Formula One, do you think that is diluting your focus, or do you think it's just necessary?
It's necessary because, again, I'm coming from the Black experience, that if I don't do this, I'm going to grow slower. I'm not going to attract more investors if I keep up like this slow, working out this test. I'm doing the test for them, but the investor is impressed by revenue and how fast that revenue can come in. So I'm doing like two really difficult things, but it's something that I have to do because I'm not white. If I was white, I could do one thing and I'm good. You know what I mean? And I would be getting checks on just my tests. But here's like the end game. Here's the end goal for me. The end thing is that if I am successful at both, that means that I'm a great bet to these investors, that this guy is super talented. He was able to innovate and execute. He was able to test and generate revenue. And generating revenue before your product launches is crazy hard. And I don't recommend it for most people. I don't want, people to have the illusion that you should jump in and do this the same way, because it can really like break your skull and your spirit when you hit a bump. And I've hit several bumps and just picked myself up and kept going. But, I am trying to accomplish a major task, which is housing these workers, getting great feedback from them, showing those investors that passed on me that I can do this thing. And my next investors, they want to ride with me forever, and they'll give me more money when I ask for it.
How I love it. I love it. How, and I can speak that I think your business model is fantastic. We're really excited to see where this is going. Like, I'm super stoked for you. I think that you have a great mindset on how and what needs to come out of this to be successful. How do our listeners, if they want to get involved with either investment or if they want to get involved with the ability to go ahead and partner with you with housing, how do they go ahead and do that?
Yeah. So let me tell you how that's working right now. So we're doing something completely unique as far as like getting people in on our testing. Okay. So if they're in markets that we really need inventory to test, such as like Nevada, Texas, and Florida, we've been taking early signups, and we were allowing people into what we call the alpha team. And the alpha team is just a representative of folks that have been working with me since day one. And they were just some of my earliest signups. And this group has been very close to me. We've been really riding for each other in this early stage. And that way of signing up is through our website. Now I will say this. When I was at Techstars, I told them about a problem that I had. I said, hey, Techstars mentors, I'm having this issue where people are asking me for support, or no, they're asking me, how can I support you? And I'm conflicted because it's like, I'm in this testing phase. And they said, well, let's talk to this group a little bit more. And that was one of the things that I did right, was that I started a Facebook group called the Workbnb App Coalition. And it was just a free Facebook group. But it was my early testing group where I could talk to these hosts daily and I could ask them questions. And we talked to them and we said, we're building this tech company and we have to achieve something called monthly reoccurring revenue. That's what investors really like right now. And the way that we want to test this is instead of a service fee, like 3% of each booking, we're going to come out with a subscription fee of $9.95 a month. And we want to test this out. And we said we would like, people to sign up as an early subscriber to help us with our MRR. And it was a way for people to support us without having to invest. Okay. And people signed up, and we called it a pre-subscription, but in a more technical format, it was almost like getting a number at the DMV. It was like, hey, here's your number. We're going to onboard you when we're ready for your property. And we had people sign up. And that was like an amazing thing, because what it did was it showed our investors like, hey, there is very strong demand for this. People were willing to pay $9.95 just to wait in line to get on. Yeah. And that really like changed the minds of tons of investors. They were like, oh my gosh, like, you were able to do what? So that was,
it shows proof of concept, right? It shows
right.
It shows that they're excited about what you're doing, and they're waiting.
Product market fit is really defined as people willing to pay money for something that they know is going to work for them. And that's how people can support us today, is to sign up for the pre-subscription. Now, again, if your property is in a certain market, we're going to onboard you a little bit faster, and we're going to test you out a little bit more. But I have this one construction company called Clayco Construction. It's out of Chicago, 2,800 employees that travel on a regular basis. And, they called us up and said, we want to alpha test you in 40 states. Yo, I almost fucking hit a brick. I was like, wait, what? And it was because the demand was so crushing for them. Because guess what, guys? The U.S. government passed a $1.3 trillion Infrastructure Investment Act that's causing construction workers to travel over the next 10 years. Yeah. So,
it's a long-term play.
It's like this in tech. It's like, yo, you have a runway, and you have a runway on demand. So I'm going to be at a property deficit realistically for the next 2 years, I'm not going to have enough rentals. Even if like a couple of, 100,000 people sign up, I would still not have enough inventory. So, we're going to be calling upon these more professional hosts to actually fly into different cities and set up rentals based on the demand.
Right.
But there's 85 airport terminals that are going under construction this year. There's freeways, bridges, highways, dams, power infrastructure, water infrastructure. That's all going under construction right now. Like it's breaking ground at this crazy rate. And then you have these big companies like Tesla that keep growing fast, opening up new gigafactories. There's a chip factory that Intel is building out in Ohio. It's going to take like 7 years and 7,000 construction workers to build.
Insane.
And it's out in the middle of nowhere. Like, how are you going to house all these workers, yo?
Oh, the Amish like housing.
Yeah, bro, it's crazy. I mean, even out here in Vegas, I talk about like Formula One, but there's $18 billion worth of construction on the books right now in Vegas. Yeah. And there are 10,000 illegal short-term rentals under their new regulation that they just passed. Mm-hmm. And there's havoc in the marketplace because it's a lottery system and nobody knows when they're going to get their permit. And they're getting these fine notices on the door. So all I do is I say, hey, the regulation is 31 days or less. If you go 31 days or longer, you're in the clear.
Right.
So give me all your properties.
Right.
And that's where I'm kicking ass right now is in markets that have these short-term rental regulations that are passing: New York, Philly, Atlanta, Vegas, Palm Springs. But then you also have these other markets that have too much saturation, like Houston. Houston is just oversaturated. But guess what? Kiewit Construction is about to build a high-speed rail project from Dallas, Fort Worth to Houston, and they need to house 300-something workers, yo. So the time of workforce rentals, I call it the rise of workforce rentals, is coming up. And I also want to say to how people can help is change your vernacular if you want to come into this world. One day we're going to have workforce rental conferences. It's going to be a different flavor, and there's going to be different metrics, and there's going to be different ideas and different tools. So call it what it is. Workforce rentals. I want to get into workforce rentals. I have a workforce rental. And eventually my goal is to make Workbnb a brand name, because guess what? Construction is forever, and construction is in every country around the world. So we have just as much scalability as Airbnb.
Love it.
If not more.
Yeves, thank you so much for joining today. We appreciate you. This has been a great podcast. I learned a ton. If you guys are interested in learning more about Workbnb, check out the website that's linked at the bottom or on our website. And hit him up if you are. We'll also go ahead and put his LinkedIn profile link there, so you can go ahead and hit Yeves up that way. If you're looking to invest, hit him up.
Hit me up. Just hit me up. You can hit me up on Twitter, Workbnb CEO. I have people hit me up on LinkedIn all the time. Angel investors. I'm entertaining a lot of angel investors right now. So, just hit me up and we'll vet you out, and, we'll make you a comfortable spot where you get to be an early believer, because if you really believe that we can take this IPO, you want to be a part of that ride.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
All right, guys.
This podcast is a Hospitality.fm production.